Hi, welcome to Let's Paint Watercolours with me, Colin. So if you're ready, let's get started. Okay, for this one I've got the borderline flats, and what I'm going to do over the tops of these mountains is just take out some clouds with a kitchen towel. Get straight onto this with some cadmium yellow light, or you can use a lemon yellow. I'm just going to flood this area with some colour just to create a light spot. The paper's been wet all over, and I've just added some masking fluid to keep some areas white, which is a tree trunks and some on the old ruin cottage, just to break that up before we put some glue on. Some cadmium orange as a barrier because it contains a red. That some cobalt blue around the areas that stopped out with a towel, kitchen towel. Shape the tops of your clouds with your brush. Strengthen it up in some areas. I think that will do for that. This is just some raw sienna. Payne's grey on the blue shade with cadmium yellow deep or cadmium yellow medium. We're just going to add some green in patches, staying away from the yellow area because I want that to remain bright. I just want to bring a little touch of cobalt blue into the foreground. Bring it all together, unify it a little bit. I've just re-wet some of the peaks here, and I've just working it into the paper a little bit. Just going to drop a little cadmium orange. It's a very strong colour. So I'm just going to weaken it off with some water. So I want to drop some of the yellow that we had, the cadmium yellow on the fronts. It's where the sun might catch the front of the rocks or the crags. And with a damp brush, soften some of these edges in. Touch more around the tops, just to darken it a bit so I hope you can see it. And then we're just going to allow these shines to go off the paper. Once the shine's gone off the paint and it's still damp, what I'm going to do is just take a weak mix of the cobalt blue, take the excess paint off, and we're just going to put some shadow in. Rock lines in and crags. Clean water. We're just going to wet the whole of the rest of the mountain and just gently touch the side where the paint is on these crags. Re-wet the whole area up around the rocks. And I'm just going to take off the excess water. And this is a mixture of cobalt blue and cadmium yellow medium with a touch of sepia in it, just to murky it down a bit. I want this to fade off slightly on this side. Now we can leave that to dry. Now I'm just going to, when all that's dry, I'm just going to re-wet the background around the cottage. As we say in Scotland, it's a bothy. It's called a bothy. and most of it will be covered up, these mistakes or little happy accidents. Okay, now this is a mixture of Payne's Grey blue shade with some cad yellow deep, and also into that I have added some sepia. And if you start around the cottage, I'm going to start on the line where the roof is, just darken it on that area and pull it up. A few indications, but not much. The fir trees. Okay, I'm just going to re-wet some areas in the back here. Now you've got the background done. Let's touch in here. Here I think, yeah. Payne's Grey blue shade with the cad yellow deep makes a beautiful green. And same here. A medium colour of it. That's the three colours, all with different amounts of the Payne's Grey blue shade. And then we just drop some colour into this. Just pulling some branches out at the bottom. We will be darkening these, but it's just to give you an indication of how far you can come down to decide. Re-wet the foreground, and this is why don't worry about the blooms, because we're just going to absolutely destroy them in a minute. Then into that is the weaker mixture of the green, which is the Payne's Grey blue shade and cadmium yellow deep. We're just going to add some colour, strengthen it up, and add a few strokes of that. Darken it under the trees. Flare some edges out. Okay, this is Payne's Grey blue shade and cadmium yellow deep, or you can use a gamboge, and I'm just bringing the tops of the trees out. Okay, this is just a mixture of the cadmium yellow deep and Payne's Grey blue shade, and all I've done really is just put some colour in. This is the mid-tone, and I'm just flicking the branches out. Doing the same here. These are really, really easy. Anybody should be able to paint this one. Okay, I've just rubbed some of the masking fluid off these three trees here, and I'm going to move in with a really dark Payne's Grey and cadmium yellow deep with some, just a touch, a tiny touch of sepia, or if you haven't got sepia you can use burnt umber for the big ones when we're ready. Okay, this is a weaker mix of the really dark green, and it's reasonably watery because I don't want it to be as strong as the one in front, so I'm just going to add some more, just some dark shadow colour, a stronger mix, and we just simply pull this out. Okay, we'll move on to the cottage, and I've just re-wet right up to where the eave is on this old ruined cottage, and into that I'm just going to drop some cadmium orange because it's the same that's in the mountain, and it would be built from the rocks and stones around the area, so that gives you a general idea of your rock colour, cadmium orange and sepia, just under the eave. Just drop it in places, don't blanket bath it everywhere. Down the wall. This is a mixture of cobalt blue and sepia to make a nice grey, like a slate grey. Add that as well in areas underneath the eave where it would be darker, like on the flank wall where the chimney is. Okay, the front part of the old ruin cottage is dry, and into that I'm just going to drop some grey, which is the mixture of the cobalt blue and sepia, just in patches on the roof. I still like just to drop a touch of the yellow, which will turn green. It doesn't matter because there will be moss on the roof. All that to dry. Now the cottage is dried off a fair bit. This is the mixture of cobalt blue and sepia, and I'm just going to put the gaps in between where the rafters and the roofing tiles are missing. There's one right up to there. Over here we'll put the windows in with the same colour. Like I said, when you don't want it to look like a sharp edge on the bottom like that, do you take a damp brush, well, I've just washed it off in some water and just lift some paint back. And you just keep lifting until you have the desired effect that you want. Maybe the light's just hitting the bottom of the door. We will now leave all that to dry. Cadmium orange and sepia, or sepia, horizontal lines, let it get lighter. A darker mix of the cadmium orange and the sepia, really nice dark brown. Just strengthen it up in areas. Now the paint's dried off a bit, it's still a bit shiny in areas, but you'll have to find this out for yourself. And where it's dry enough, all I'm using is a palette knife, and I'm just going to put in some pebbles and rocks. I'll just do a few and I'll show you how I've done it. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to deepen the foreground, and for this I'm just going to re-wet the whole area of where I want it to be deepened. I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to try not to lift any of the paint off that we've already put on. Payne's grey blue shade and cadmium yellow deep. We can strengthen the front, which will make the cottage stand out. Just leaving some light areas, but I just want this cottage to stand out a little bit more. Right under the trees, getting a nice crisp edge. Now that everything's dry and I've removed all the masking fluid, I'm just going to run some gold ochre, the tree trunk fence post. As you can see, I've just run some gold ochre up that tree trunk. I'll just do one, and we've got all the time in the world at home. Just bring the top out. This is a dark mix of the Payne's grey blue shade and the sepia. Once you've got your trees looking like that, we can then add the dead branches in. You can take your time doing this. I'll just do a few just to show you. Make them bend all different ways. Don't have it look like soldiers. Okay, welcome back. As you can see, I've got the trees finished, and should end up looking something like that. And I've put a couple of birds in, and what else I've done, I've just put a dark line where the shadow would be on the brickwork, added a little bit of the yellow onto the outside stonework, and we're just going to put some brickwork in. Just little indications, some in the wall, just adds extra interest. It's a very watery mix. We need a shadow from the cottage running backwards from that, from this tree. Shadow here. There's a long shadow here. Don't be frightened of putting shadows in. They do belong in the painting. It's time to sign it. And I think we'll call this one finished. Once you've signed it, you can put your mark around it and frame it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please click the like button, and if you want to see further videos, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.